the steps. I don't have that in my notes, but I want to talk about it. So here we are facing each other, and I go, yeah! And I start this immediately big explosive motion. That immediately, at the very beginning of the motion, tells you something is coming, it's an attack, adrenaline comes up, make a block, throw a shot, do something, you're in trouble, right? Whereas, if there's a lot of casual motion, a slow motion movement like this doesn't do anything yet. There's no threat yet. So, something to add into your repertoire are shots that, first of all, you've already got some motion going on, so you can get this far in your shot before anything unusual has happened. They've already seen this motion. This motion doesn't mean anything. But this time, this motion is setting up the body rotation and motion for the shot. So this doesn't mean anything yet. And then the shot starts out slow. Reach the hand, leave the tip behind, forward style, say. You've already started your circle. You've already gotten to here before they might notice that something is happening. Now the speed stops and the shot comes out. So all this could mean nothing. And what that means is, really, instead of being faster, you have thrown 2/3 of your sword blows slower than usual. Your opponent's perception will be, they only see the last third of the blow. And to them, that will be blindingly fast because they'll have no warning. So you look faster for being slower. That's our effect.
Couldn't you, in theory, do that with all of your shots, and at any point in time in the circle, so you don't strike the guy, it's slow, it's strong?
Yeah, and in fact, that's two things I wanted to bring up that relate to that. One is that, well, first of all, if you do long circular returns behind the body, you give yourself an opportunity to slow things down back there and reevaluate targets before you continue. It's all one fluid motion still, but you're allowing yourself an opportunity to not to throw the blow as soon as you can, but rather to throw the blow at the right moment when they're back in the open. One of my favorite blows is what I call an around the world, which is just a long circular shot coming from around through low right, up into high left, and then back around diagonally. The reason it tends to work is that there's a whole bunch of tight stuff going on, and it comes up to here, and at this point, there is no telling what the timing of this blow is going to be, because I'm watching and looking for the right moment to drop it in. And it's big, and it has multiple points at which the body can be added to the shot and be thrown. Because it's a big motion. So you give yourself this sort of waiting period back here where you're still in motion, you're not stopped, you're not locked, you're not returned to a guard position, you're in motion, but you've still got options. You haven't really committed your body to the shot here. The other thing that relates to that reminds me that I want to talk about, is when to add power to your shots. And it's very closely related to what we just talked about there. A good example of that is the high guard snap. So let's say you're out here, and you want to throw this snap like this. There are a number of different ways you can throw that snap. I mean, you can generate power right here, twist the hips, and throw the shot. And in fact, in my youth, that's how that shot was thrown. And without having to return, that's how I busted my elbows. But and this one people like to score up to. It's really a nice rotation point there. But right here, you've already committed yourself. At this point, that's the blow you're going to throw. There's no choice once you fire that. Before you fire that, you could choose to say throw the leg, but once you start in a motion, you're committed. That leg is what you're going to throw. So it's effective, but in some ways limiting. The other thing that's kind of limiting about it, and the truism of the day was, you had to have both feet firmly planted on the ground to throw a powerful blow, because that was true if you had to develop your power that early in your shot with a rotational force. What I've seen since then is a lot of people are still throwing a fanny shot, but something very subtle is going on, in that from here to here, the sword is moving through the same motion, but from here to here, no significant power is going to the blow yet. It is really just power of the hand drawing the sword back to here. The body doesn't fire until the sword gets to here. Then the body is added to the shot. And I think that is generally a good generalization. It's not a 100% rule, but I think you're better served if the vast majority of the time you add your body, that powerful body rotation, to your shot when the sweet spot of your sword is behind the line of the shoulder. That comes out of Sean's stuff too, talking about getting the sweet spot of the sword behind the body, the line of the shoulders. What I would add to that is, even if it's in a full circle motion like this, you draw your hand back, pull it back, and even so, you've added very little power all the way back to here, because when it gets save it until you're in this ideal position where it can do the most for you, and then add the power of the body to the shot. I see in Sven's fighting that he does these snaps from here, but he's like airborne when he throws them. And that sort of defies logic if you're thinking about the force being generated early on in the shot. But I think what I'm seeing, and what he told me when I asked him about it anyways, was that he's actually generating the force once the sword gets to here. So he's starting the flip with the hand. When he gets to here, that's when the shot drives. So from here, that drive could manifest itself into a leap forward or whatever. It's all driving up out of the legs, but it's driving once the sword is back here. So it's forward motion, not rotational motion, that's driving that shot. Let's see. Other things. A useful thing to think about is throwing into the wake of a shot. So if you think of a sword as being a sail ship and it's on the water and it's moving along through the water, there's this wake behind the sword. When people fight, they think about their sword as a line of defense, especially in a round shield kingdom. You're supplementing the weak top round with a sword to cover some angles. And they get comfortable with the idea that they've got this zone of defense. When they throw a blow, that zone of defense disappears momentarily. The brain doesn't always adapt to that and realize the danger. Not only is there a new physical danger there, but because their mind is focused on throwing a shot, they're even less focused on defending their shield block than they would be any other time. So the ideal place to hit them is not just anywhere, but to hit them where the sword used to be. Feel that wake behind the sword and try to throw into the spot where the sword used to be. That's where their mind is least focused on defending himself. Jumping shots. So now that we've talked about generating force by straightening the knees and by dropping the weight, it starts to be pretty obvious that you can generate force in a shot with your feet off the ground. So if it's an upward sloping shot, as you push off the ground, that's how we generate power in an upward sloping shot, right? So if you push really hard, what happens? You come off the ground, right? So power is generated by pushing with your feet. It happens to take you off the ground. The shot hits. Obviously, with a downward shot, you relax on, you fall. So if you jump, you'll come down eventually. You drop the blow as you're coming down. One important thing to mention about jumping and fighting is that it's not like basketball. You don't want this elongated, stretching the spine out, kind of loose, long body jump. What you really want is you want to be in your stance. Remember, we're talking about pressing down into the ground with the bottom of the feet. That's how we're generating force in our shots. To jump, you push down with the bottom of your feet equally, just harder. So you go up. Just pushing down. You're not elongating and straightening your knees much at all. You're just shoving with the bottom of your feet. And you really only need a couple inches, just to alter the angle a little bit and find what you want to hit.
So when your hips are turning, you want to get power on the shot. Your hips are in the wrong position, so get up in the air. So
well, and also, if you push a little harder with your right foot, you're going to rotate that way. Left foot, you rotate that way. So you can create rotation even as you're leaving the ground. Before I forget, compass drill. When Sean presented that in his class, I thought, oh, that's cool, but I've been making steps and stuff. I don't see the big deal. I got to thinking about it more and more afterwards. And the thing that really bugged me about it was, for those of you who may not have had it, the compass drill is the idea you stand in the middle of a compass star, and you take a 6-inch step north, you go back to the middle, take a 6-inch step, northeast, you step back to the middle, and you do all the directions, just these little steps. It's very important that they're only 6-inch steps. So that's the basic compass drill. And what bugged me about it is you're facing an opponent. If I move over here, they just turn and face me. If I move over here, they just turn and face me. Our orientation stays the same against an opponent that's not sleeping, right? So I wasn't sure what I would use it for, really. But then what I started to notice was there are moments where your opponent does not adjust to what you're doing. First of all, 6-inch step, this is why the 6-inch step is important. If I step bigger than 6 inches, they're going to see it and feel it and respond to it. It suddenly goes from being to something that happened to mean something important that happened, and they respond to it right away. But the other thing is, if we're just spaced off here, we're really studying each other, I'm giving him all my attention, he's giving me all his attention, and I make a little movement, he's going to respond to that. If I move my sword, he's going to adjust his guard. That's just the way we do it, right? But if he's throwing a sword blow,